seeking closure is bullshit. That's my vision of this keyword, of this concept. I help people to get back with the ex, I help people to heal after a breakup. And in this video, I will explain why I strongly believe that holding on to this idea of closure can be toxic for you, can be counterproductive. I'll explain everything after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So first of all, let's define closure, or where finds its origin, the origin of the word. It's from Harry Kruglansky. Apologize if I don't pronounce it well. And she's a social psychologist, and she came up with this need for closure, the idea that we need a framework in terms of our to help us with our decision making. It's basically to find rationality, to find some sort of a framework to remove ambiguity and confusion when we are dealing with something. And so now it's very common to talk about closure when it's about a relationship, when it's about breakup. The problem is that it has no psychological foundation. You'll see it's different than grief, it's different than healing, than the process of letting go. Closure is a construct. It's a concept. It's very important for you to understand that it's something that has been created but that has not necessarily any foundation. And I'm going to introduce 5 reasons why I think it can be counterproductive to be fixated on this idea of closure. The first one is it's elusive. And if we think about how Nietzsche perceive the idea of control, the idea of how we see the world. I always like to see how philosophers, how great thinkers think about situations, because it's very interesting. Even if you look at Greek philosophers, what they're saying still applies nowadays. And Nietzsche would say that there are no facts, only interpretations, right? And when you are with this idea of what if I've done that? Why is he doing that? You can create infinite numbers of scenarios in your head. And the problem with that is what I call an infinite regression. It's a little bit when you are trying to fight in quicksand. The more you fight, the more you ask yourself a question, the deeper you get buried. And soon enough, you won't be able to move out of this quicksand. So it's the idea of, okay, you are creating interpretation. And there are many interpretations. There's yours, there's your ex, but that's not really helping you. That's not helping you because it makes it harder for you to move forward, make it harder for you to heal, make it harder for you to really think about the future. Because the problem is after a breakup, we usually we usually get stuck in the past, right? My job as a therapist to help people to look at the past without any judgment, without blaming you. Learn tools and strategy to feel better right now, so to be in the here and now, and that's why you'll hear a lot about mindfulness, because it's about being in the here and now. And more importantly is how you can look forward, how you can see your future, how you can create a vision for yourself. Okay, so this idea of closure can also open some wounds, and the idea is that you seek someone to heal those wounds, but that person doesn't want to communicate with you, to be there for you, to support you. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that it will not bring satisfaction. Very often, we have this discussion with our ex, with our partner. We think it will really make us at peace, but then again, you come up with your own interpretation. I would never disappear this way. I would never do this. How could he do this? Those words, whatever that person will say, will not please you. It will not make you feel better. That's the misconception about closure, is the idea that if only I had more information, if only I understood why he acted this way, I will feel better. It has nothing to do with that. So the problem is that by getting that closure, by having this discussion, you might not be in a position to accept. Okay, so the idea is to understand your ex's decision, not necessarily understand, it's to understand that by understanding, sorry, I'm confusing myself, by understanding their decision, you're forgetting the more important point, the most important point. I'm struggling today, is to focus on yourself. is to really find that actually what will bring you peace, what will bring you security, if we talk about attachment style, comes within. We'll discuss about that at the end of the video. There's a surprise. You might never get it. That's also a hard truth, is that sometimes people don't give you that closure. So be prepared today. Accept the fact that you might not get that closure. That person who was very important in your life, you invested a lot in that relationship, you had projects together, they betrayed you, and that was a shock, you feel it's unfair, that person might never ever give you that closure, might never ever give you what you are trying to get. Again, this is a concept, this is an idea that you're creating in your mind. And so when you are trying to get something from someone who doesn't want to give it to you, are trying to control something that you can't control, that's the basis for or the best recipe if you want to create anxiety. Anxiety is when we obsess on things that we can't control. And because we can't control them, we obsess and we create that circle. Okay, so it's very important for you to, and that's why I'm making this video, is that closure, seeking closure, because you're not sure that you're going to get it, might make you feel more anxious. And it can also be a trigger, because when you get that closure, when you get that discussion, again, you might not feel better. That's not how it works. I've seen and helped hundreds of people. Some people feel better after when they get that closure, when they get that discussion, but a lot of people don't get better. And it's nothing to do with the words, it's just about yourself. And I'll explain actually what you need. It's not closure, it's something else that you need. Fourth is another story that you tell yourself. William James came very interesting idea of the narrative self versus the experiential self. And we are human beings, we love stories. We love a good story. And sometimes we're kind of guilty of telling ourselves stories. The idea is that we like when things are coherent, right? And that's what closure provides. It's the idea of like, there's some gaps in the storyline and I need to get someone to give me the timeline, to give me the rationale, to help me understand, to help me fill those gaps. And so the idea of like, I need to really see the thread of the story. Otherwise, I can't really understand, I can't really move on. And again, that's the difference between the narrative self, where we are really interested in the story, really interested in, how can it make sense, versus accepting that in life, sometimes reality is complex, sometimes reality is unfair. And forgetting that your realities, what you're doing right now, your actions, your reflection, your thoughts, that's only what matters in reality, right? So it's really about understanding that, yes, there's a narrative self, there's this idea that we want to make sense of life, of the world, but as you can see, as I'll explain in the next slide, it depends on people, because some people have a personality where they are more rigid in the ways of thinking, and it's not quality. You can have like pros and cons of having that type of personality, but for some people it's harder to accept ambiguity, complexity, things that don't make sense. So there's this personality, and there's also the value system. So I didn't know how to name it, but some people, religious people, have a better acceptance of things that happen. That's life. There's a supreme power that makes us do things. And so when things are complex, there are things you can't really understand, then you accept because you feel like, that's the way it is, that's the universe. Okay, so there are, I don't know if you recognize yourself in those two types of personality, where on one end you have like the personality type of people struggling when, the low tolerance of ambiguity, and the value system of like things are like this. So the thing is, what you have to understand is, when we fight, we tend to question ourselves. And that's the problem you have when you are in this mindset of, I need closure. Because I doubt of my skills, I doubt my judgment, my abilities to be loved, to be in a relationship, to be successful with my future partner, with my ex. And that's the problem. Here is the truth. Here is what I think about closure. It's not only a belief and something that I strongly where I have a strong opinion, it's also something that I see with my clients as a therapist and helping people going through breakups. Closure is knowing that you did what you needed to do, and that whatever happens is out of your hand. That is closure. It's not about confronting your ex, understanding what they're doing. It's about understanding that you've done your part. Understanding that whatever happens next is out of your hand. It's daunting, it's scary, because you feel there's so many uncertainties, there's so many things that I can't control, but yeah, that's the thing. There are things you can't control. And closure is finding peace in a way, in the fact that there are things that you can't control. And unfortunately, yes, your ex took the decision to end the relationship. They control the narrative. They decided for you, right? And so that's also the power struggle that we see after a breakup, where we feel that, we want to control things. We want to get them on board. We want to bring them in front of us and discuss and confront and ask them, why, right? The idea right now, if you are struggling after this breakup, is really understanding that closure comes within. It's really the most important thing. This closure, this concept, what you're looking after, is something that comes within. You can use, there's a parallel with the Buddhism philosophy about accepting the impermanence of things. There's also a say about what really is happiness is when you let go of attachment. Okay, so try to find ways for you to, yes, it sucks. Yes, it's unfair. Yes, there are things I might never understand, but that's how things are in life, unfortunately. And I think that's also the problem with breakups. They are so complex, they are so hard to explain. Every time someone calls me, they tell me, I know you hear a lot of people, but my story is unique. My story is crazy. And I hear that every single day. And usually they're true. That's why I love my job, because there are so many fascinating stories. And letting go of attachment, in this context, it goes beyond the attachment theories, attachment of things, attachment of the story, right? You're attached to the narrative that by having those answers, by having this discussion, you will feel better. No, that's not the point. So right now you can decide today. You can decide your attitude, you can decide your actions, you can decide how you deal with your emotions. That's what we do in counseling, is we decide, and counseling/coaching, because when it's about action, about attitude, that's where people need coaching to say, like, okay, let's assess. Let's try to see how you can progress every single day. Let's try to make you happier, 1% happier every day. More resilient, 1% every single day. Okay, so it's really about this. And today you can decide, after you watch this video, what do you want to do? What is helping you right now? The idea of holding on to this idea of closure, holding on to the past, or deciding right now, today, that's not what I want. Today I want to move forward. Today I want to heal. Today I want to have a fulfilling life. Right now, it's not with my ex, but you can decide today. You can decide right now. So pause this video, close the YouTube, go on a walk, reflect on this, and remember, closure comes within. Take care. Bye-bye. Power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.